Here we are at example 5 from our 4.6 set of notes. We're asked to use the quadratic formula to pretty much solve for this. Again, we need to get 0 on one side, so what we're going to go ahead and do first is subtract 5 from both sides. Here it cancels, leaving us with our 2x squared minus 3x minus 20 equals 0. Now we're going to go ahead and identify our a, b, and c. Here's a, there's b, and there's c. Sometimes I even circle them just to help out, but please know that it is including those negatives when you're identifying your a, b, and c. So it's 2, negative 3, and negative 20. As always, we're going to go ahead and rewrite the quadratic formula just to become more familiar. So x equals the opposite of b, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. And this is even a formula, guys, just as a heads up, that you can even use on the ACT. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to commit to memory, okay? X equals opposite of b. In this case, this is, again, where we're just plugging in the numbers. No real math yet. Square root of b, which is negative 3 squared, minus 4 times our a value is 2, and our c value is negative 20. All over 2 times our a value, 2. Next up, we're going to go ahead and kind of clean this up a little bit. So the opposite of negative 3 is really positive 3. Plus or minus square root of negative 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 2 times negative 20 gives us positive 169. And this is all over 4. Oh, I'm sorry. That would actually only be 160. I was already adding the 9. So this would be 160. Okay. Now, we can go ahead and combine those and get the 169. So 3 plus or minus square root of 169 all over 4. Okay, so now that 169 that we see, that actually is a perfect square. Okay, and this is where, again, more of those steps at the end can kind of play a role. Kind of using the notes that we've already talked about with square roots, we're going to simplify that square root of 169 to 13. It actually is a perfect square, and when we apply the square root, we get 13 all over 4. Now, guys, what we're going to go ahead and do is split them up using 1 for the positive and then 1 for the negative, okay? So for the positive version, we'd have x equals 3 plus 13 over 4. And then for the other, it would be x equals 3 minus 13 over 4, okay? And so when we look at the positive one, looks like we would have 16 over 4, which is 4. So x in this case comes out to be 4. And then when we look at the difference, we end up with negative 10 over 4, which would simplify down to be negative 5 halves. Okay. Again, this would be negative 10 over 4. And that's how we got that. So those are our two solutions. Okay, so at times you're actually able to simplify that square root and then be able to split like that, okay? Before, when we saw our examples, like this value right here, we couldn't break down, so that's why we didn't do that. But again, though, that is example 5 from our 4.6 set of notes.